Welcome to this video in which I'm going to analyze the Harvard Business School application for 2019. So this is basically the application season of 2018-19 for the class of 2021. Right. So first things first, let's get some basics out of the way. So Harvard deadlines this year. So there are two deadlines, one on September 5th and the other one on January 3rd. The results typically for the September deadline, you will get an interview by about October, and the decision will be told to you by December 11th, 2018 if you apply in round 1. And if you apply in round 2, there is a Jan intake, you probably are going to get your results, your interview date by end of January, and the final results by March 26th, 2019. What does it mean for you? Round 1 versus round 2. If it is Harvard, there is no question you should be looking at round 1, right? And there is really no reason for you to apply to round 2, unless and until, of course, you have still not taken the GMAT, right? But if Harvard is in your list, my suggestion would be to apply in round 1. Not that your chances greatly diminish in round 2. I think if you're Harvard material, round 1 versus round 2 shouldn't make a difference, right? Because you are that good. But what happens is, if you're applying to other schools in round 1 and you're applying to Harvard in round 2, you get your results by March 26th. But the other schools, you would need to pay the fees. You know, they have this caution deposit or whatever you call it. So they have that, and you need to make sure that you need to decide. And sometimes that can be a lot of money, right? So my suggestion, if it's Harvard, round 1, right? Couple of statistics, you must have seen these on the website or other forums. They had 10,351 people applying, out of which 928 got in, right? So that gives you a pretty good acceptance rate, like pretty good as in pretty low acceptance rate. But here is one thing that people forget about Harvard, right? And I've had people come and tell me, Arun, but 10,000 people applied, 1,000 got in, roughly 10%. But that's nothing compared to IIMs, where 2 lakh people take the CAT and only a few hundreds get into the IIMs. Incorrect. Okay. The reason it's incorrect is because people who apply to Harvard, there is a lot of self-selection that already happens. Right? If you look at the average GMAT for people who got into Harvard, it's 730. But if you look at perhaps the average GMAT of people who got rejected, that might be 720. Correct? So what is happening is, people are not even applying to Harvard. And the 10,000 people who are applying are so sure, okay, of themselves. They are so confident. They have done, remarkably at work. And that's why they have the confidence to apply, correct? So I just want you to take the acceptance percentage with a pinch of salt. This is not true for Harvard. This is true for most B schools, right? Most top B schools, which is the self-selection. Coming to the GMAT scores, most people who got in through GMAT, no surprises there. 730 is the median that it boasts. One important thing that I would like you to see is, you usually see a lower number, somewhere around 580, 590, 450, right? There have been a couple of years ago when the scores were so low. But do not go at the low scores, right? Because when you look at a range, right, that is the lowest score. And we don't know the story behind that. We don't know who's the guy who got in at a 560, right? If you were to ask me, and I'm going to base it on Indians applying, you need a rock solid GMAT score, right? What I mean by a rock solid GMAT score is a 750, 760 kind of score. If you have a 730, 720, the rest of your profile is great, I wouldn't worry. But 750, 760 is just the kind of scores that I have seen over the years, typically getting into Harvard. So make sure you gun for that. In case you are going down the GRE route, the average GRE scores that they publish is a 164 in quant and a 164 in verbal, which for a lot of Indians looks very different, because 164 in verbal on the GRE looks very high, whereas maybe 164 in quant could look low. But I would probably say a GRE score of 330 and above is what you should be looking at if you're gunning for Harvard. right? That's the basics. Let's look a little bit more into the school. So the first thing that I would like to tell you about the school is, see, Harvard has credentials that are not gold plated, they are platinum plated, correct? It's probably that one school in the world which is so well known that, you know, the moment you say that you're an MBA from Harvard, people just automatically assume that you are hardworking, you are smart, you know how to get your job done, right? You know, if you were to look at, and when I've spoken to people from other top schools, one thing that they have told me, and very interesting, is if you look at Kellogg, it's known for marketing, right? If you look at a Columbia, it's known for finance. If you look at a Wharton, it's also known for finance, Wharton, Booth. But if you look at Harvard, Harvard is known for nothing, right? So every top school aspires to be a Harvard. It aspires to go to a point where people just look at it and say, hey, you know, this is Harvard. Whatever you learned there probably is useful, correct? How are the classes? Well, the class size, one of the biggest, 928. It's by far the largest class size that you have. And what they do is they typically split it up into sections. So each of these sections have about 90 students. So you would pretty much be in one of the 10 sections that they have. It just makes it easier to put a face to a name. Otherwise, you can get easily lost. So you have 10 sections, and within the sections you have learning teams. So these learning teams usually come together for a project. And also what the school does is it picks students with different backgrounds, cultural, functional, in a lot of ways, so that your learning, in that sense, is truly diverse, right? So though you are in a large class, you still have that connection bond with your learning team. Specifically, what has been my experience of Indians who have gotten in? So I've known a few of my students who have gotten into Harvard. Couple of things. One, Harvard is big into brand names. So that I can tell, so if you have a good brand name in terms of your education, or you have a blue chip employer, that is going to be a huge plus for you, right? So if you're looking at an IIT as undergrad, just giving an example, IIT as an undergrad, and let's say you work for Bain, or if you work for, let's say, Sequoia, or if you work for McKinsey in its, as an analyst. I think those are the kind of roles that really make you, Harvard material. The other thing that I want to tell you is Harvard also looks for a history of excellence, right? It looks for people who have consistently done very well, right, in whatever they have done. So the other thing that I've seen is people who have had successful setups, who have been entrepreneurs and who have had successful exits. So that's going to be another thing, right? So if you run a mom and pop store, and you're making revenues of, let's say, 20 lakhs, well, good for you, but that's not the kind of scale that Harvard is looking. So if you're looking at something big, you're really looking at, having a setup. So any impact that you have done, right, be it your business, be it community involvement, anything. So if you say that in college I was part of it, you should say I was heading a cultural fest where the budget was 10 crores, right? Or something that had a huge impact. So that's the other focus. So you need to look at impact. You need to look at quantifying the size of your impact, right? Very important for you to do so, right? So these are the two broad things that I've seen in my students, specifically Indians who have gotten in. So let's look at the essays that we have this year. So it's not really changed. I think the last 4 or 5 years, they have maintained the same format. And the question is, as we review your application, what more would you like us to know as we consider your candidacy for the Harvard Business School MBA program? Interesting thing, no word limit. Let me just answer that part first. What should be an ideal word limit? See, I would not really keep a number to it, but I would find it very hard to justify something that goes into, let's say, 2,000, 3,000 words. It reflects, in fact, poorly on your ability to articulate your thoughts, correct? So I would probably say, for the lack of a better number, I would say 1,000, correct? So assume that it's a 1,000-word essay. Obviously, if you go, to let's say 800 words or you go to 1200 words, I wouldn't worry. But if you have a number, I would probably pick 1000 as a number, and this is coming from someone who writes, right? So I know that in writing, there is only so much that you can do in order to keep their interest. More than that, they will probably read it, but they will not read it in the way you would like them to read, correct? So I think 1000 words is pretty much on par. And in our past also, the students, the applications that we have known, they have written somewhere in that range, okay? Now, coming to the other thing, what do you write? Correct? So I'm pretty sure all of you watching the video are waiting for this, right? You're waiting for, okay, Arun, so great, but what do we write? I will tell you what not to write, okay? I'll tell you what not to write, and perhaps from there we can go on to what we can write, okay? What we cannot write. Do not write about your accomplishments. I think there is this huge need to show Harvard that I've done all these things in life. They use this essay to talk about stuff that they have done and why it was a big deal for them to do that, correct? But what really happens is, you end up repeating your resume, correct? To keep your resume in front of you, assume that during the interview, you will be asked to defend, or you would be asked questions on your resume, correct? So it is pointless for you to repeat points from your resume. In fact, I think you should keep your resume in front of you when you're writing the essay, and at any point you think, well, am I repeating something? Probably that point gets knocked off, correct? Second thing, again, as I said, a lot of people try to write what they think will impress the Harvard MBA committee, correct? So I'm going to read something from the Harvard website as a suggestion. We think you know what the guidance we are going to give here. Don't overthink, overcraft, and overwrite. Okay, it's clear, overwrite. Just answer the question in clear language that those of us who don't know your world can understand. So do not fill it with business jargon, right? Again, the tendency is, this is Harvard Business School, I have to sound intelligent. I have to sound as if I'm worthy of Harvard Business School. That's one thing I've seen in students. I want to show to them that I am good enough. And for that, I'm going to use words which show my, expertise or my skill. Do not do that. Write simple language under 1000 words. Now, let's get on to what do you write. Very hard for me to really be prescriptive, because Harvard themselves are not prescriptive, so it would be incorrect for me to be prescriptive. Let me give you a couple of ideas so that after this video you can really think about it. If you're applying to Harvard, you can always write to us. More than happy to see if there is a way by which we can work and brainstorm on the ideas, right? Now, coming to the specific part on the content to write. First of all, as I said, if it is not going to be a resume, what a lot of people do is they turn into this life story, correct? When I was 5, I remember my father telling me that, he had to do something, and, that seeded this idea of who I wanted to be. Then at 10, I did this. At 15, I did this. At 20, I did this. At 25, I'm doing this. And this is what I want to do at 30. You know what? It's great. But unless and until you're Shah Rukh Khan, nobody really wants to know what you've done, correct? What I would do is I would probably go towards the why. Right, to kind of paraphrase Simon Sinek on this. I want to start with the why. I want to know more about who you are. I want to know, what do you bring? What are your values? What is it that really defines who you are, correct? So that would be the core. So what I would do is I would probably do this very simple exercise. What you can do is you can sit with a bunch of post-it notes, right? And what you can do is you can just talk about everything that you feel that you have done in your life. What defines that? For example, let me give a personal example. So one pattern or trend that I've seen in my life is that I tend to, I like to help people, right? So I've gone out of my way and I have, helped people, and that's what I do. That's what gives me my, it just gives me a kick, right? that now becomes one why, right? So one thing, so I'd probably put it as Arun the giver, right? Arun the teacher, Arun the mentor, whatever. So now that becomes my why, correct? Now what I'm going to do is from that why, I'm going to then probably go to the next level and I'm going to say how, right? So now that, I've defined my why, how is it that, I actually do that, right? So then I get into the details. Again, it's slightly below the surface level, but things like, what is it that I want to impact? What does it mean for me to be a teacher? What is it that, I think I have done? Then I would get into the what, right? So that would be the last part. So the last part would be talking about, maybe a little bit about what I've done and also a little bit about what I want to do, right? So I would probably pick the why, how, and what framework, pick a bunch of post-it notes. For each idea, you develop the why. Once you know the why, you develop the how. Like now this is why, how have I done it, right? So how is this, what attracts me, a little bit more about it. And then you get into the what, like what have I done, what I plan to do, correct? So that's what I would keep as one way to write this. Now, the other thing that a lot of people ask is, Arun, can this not be my career goals essay? Yes, it can be your career goals essay, but I would probably take a slightly larger view, because if they wanted to give a career goals essay, they would have given you a career goals essay, correct? So what I would do, I would take a larger view of it. What I would do is I would go in and I would use the same why, how, and what framework. Pick one piece that I'm really passionate about. Maybe talk about why am I passionate? How did I become passionate? Right? That's a very interesting backstory, right? Like, what is it that happened to me that made me passionate about it? And then what is it that you're going to do with your gift? What is it that you're going to do with your talent, right? So I would probably pick that approach. I would probably pick a slightly larger approach. Maybe talk about the fact what I want to do, but not keep that as the focus for the essay. So yes, careers can be the backdrop, but not the main story. So that's what I would have to say about the essays. And I know it's a little tough to start writing. So here is a tip on writing the HBS essay. Now there are two types of writing. One is called focused writing. So what happens in focused writing is you have a very clear structure. So most schools will give you 300 words. Tell me what you want to do post MBA and how such and such school will help you get there. Now over there you have a structure and it's easier for you to fit into structure. For Harvard, I would recommend going for an unfocused view, right? Like unfocused writing, where you're writing, not really thinking. So many a times, especially Indian students, we tend to have a problem expressing our thoughts on paper. So what I would suggest, maybe maintain a journal, maybe keep a Word document, and every day commit to writing 30 minutes, 40 minutes. Do that for about a week. Right? Try doing that. It'll looks easy, but actually is very hard. So try to spend 30 minutes every day for the next 1 week just writing, right? This could be your thoughts. This could be what you want to do, why you want to go to Harvard. Do not judge what you're writing, right? So once you have done writing, that's it. And give yourself a timer, right? 30 minutes. That's it. I'm going to write. I'm going to step away. Then what you may do is perhaps a week later, go back, look at what all you have written, and maybe there is a pattern that emerges from that, right? So this could be a prequel to having the post-it notes. So that's all I had. I think I hope I have helped you getting some idea, some direction with your Harvard Business School essays. As always, in case you have anything, please go ahead and drop us a mail. We would be more than glad to get in touch to see how we can help you. And if you like this video and if you think that we have helped you, we need a help, could you please go ahead and like this video, subscribe to our channel if possible. Also drop a comment. We would love to personally, I would like to get in touch and respond to each and every query. Thank you.